I really don't want to say this because this has sort of become a joke now. I've said it so many times, I've completely watered down this statement. But I gotta say it. I think I'm onto something here, man. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh yeah, no worries. The first person is going to be my wife. She's like, man, you've said this to me for the last 3 years, probably 100 times. You know, I say this, you know, I'm onto something. Every time I kind of feel like I've worked something out. There's something kind of I've added to my knowledge, something that's going to change things for the better. It's going to be kind of like a bit of a jump. And I've had so many of these moments in the past, and you know, it's short-lived, it seems like. You know, a few times I've kind of truly kind of worked out what's what. One of the biggest ones was when I kind of sorted out the hip pain. But this time around, I'm saying it because of good mornings. I think I'm onto something with these good mornings. They're cheap. They are really, really, really cheap. You can get away with a really good workout with good mornings with just silly type of weight. Today I did 70 kilos for 5 sets of 10, and I felt a really good workout. 70 damn kilos. Now, if I was to do 70 kilos with RDLs, it would even be a warm-up. It wouldn't even be a warm-up. Like I've worked up to 200. 70 kilos, man, if you really kind of send your ass back the other way and really hip hinge, maybe have, you know, soft knees ever so slightly, but don't bend them too much because you want that tension in the hamstrings. If you do that, man, 70 kilos feels like a ton. So I really think I'm onto something. Today was basically day 18 of not hitting 260 kilos for the deadlift for a single. I didn't realize, I just had a look at the training log and I was like, man, it's been a freaking long time. Basically, since I've kind of introduced that whole rack pull thing and, you know, chasing that, I've kind of suffered with it. I mean, I don't think the entire time I was rack pulling, but it's been a little while. And, you know, there was a period of time where I was kind of hitting 260, seems like, you know, a couple of times a week. And then there was a change in my thinking, and I've kind of suffered. Doesn't mean that the rack pulls don't assist. But now I've done a bit of good mornings, and I've had DOMs in the last 2 days in my hamstrings like nobody's business. Good mornings are like RDLs on steroids. Literally, that's what I feel like, because you basically, like the way I do it, at least, I'm sure there's many different ways of doing it. When you do good mornings and you have these soft knees and just barely, it's more basically like a stiff-legged good morning, there is so much damn tension to the hamstrings. So much tension. And, you know, today was the first time I did 70 kilos. Yesterday I did 60 for just one set of, I think, 10, I think I did. But predominantly I've kind of done 2 days now with the good mornings. The first day I did RDLs with just the empty bar, and I went for a stretch more so than weight. And oh my God, I barely got through my shift yesterday. Every step of walking, I could feel my hamstrings. They were so tight, so pumped. Today, it's kind of subsided a little bit. Went to the gym. I thought I was going to have a really kind of poor session, but the bar felt light. It felt light. Even though my hamstrings are far from recovered, there's probably 30% left of recovery, I think. I felt strong. I felt strong from the floor all the way through. My hips felt, man, I want to say this word, and you know, when I say these two statements, it's going to be like, wow, this is a big thing. I literally felt poppy today. I feel like I'm onto something because that something has made me feel poppy today, despite me not feeling fully rested. This is why I feel like I'm onto something, because rarely do I have that kind of poppy feeling where I'm really kind of explosive in my step. That's what good mornings did. The good mornings hit the hamstrings, and they also kind of hit the glutes as well. And I felt better hip orientation, if you will, walking and just kind of generally being. I felt like good mornings are a really good tool to restore, you know, or get rid of, treat anterior pelvic tilt. Automatically, I'm thinking about all those times that I've worked in the backyard, work kind of like labor stuff, digging, shoveling, all that kind of stuff with my dad and my father-in-law, late father-in-law. You know, those guys used to kind of laugh at me because I used to get a freaking low back pump. I feel like good mornings, that's exactly what you got to do to get rid of that. It's kind of like a hyper 45 degree hyper, but a lot better because you can scale it to whatever you want. Whereas, loading up the 45-degree hypo is kind of hard. Although the 45-degree hypo is a lot safer because everything else is locked in. You just basically hip hinge. And there's no weight, axial loading like there is in the good morning. The good morning, though, I just thought of something. So the good morning I'm scared of. And it reminds me of what my brother said to me when I first got into, driving a car. He said to me, you've grown up, he's 4.5 years older than me. So, I grew up watching him, talking about cars, Holdens, Commodores, HSVs, all that stuff. Like it's an Australian kind of Chevy, the Holdens are. So, I grew up, watching him and his mates, live that whole kind of car scene world. And when I got my car license, I was like, oh man, I'm so pumped to driving. And my brother said to me basically like this. This is a great, point in your life. This car is going to help you, but this car can also take your life. So that was the first thing that he said to me. Is this is a very serious thing. This is not like the movies. You can't be drifting around like an idiot. This thing will take your life if you don't respect it. So it's great, but don't mess with it, man. This thing will mess you up. And so that's how I think about good mornings. I love it. I love what it's doing to my body. I love how it's felt, and I love how it's making me feel like Poppy. But my God, if you stuff this up, man, it will F you up, man. It will F you up, put you in a wheelchair. Bruce Lee comes to mind right away. He was kind of doing some sort of good morning, roundabout good morning to kind of work on his erectors. There's been countless others. A lot of you guys in the comments have said to me, L4, L5, S1, I've snapped those kind of discs. Thanks to good mornings, you have to be very, very strict. And the whole time today, I'm like walking that 70 kilos out, and I'm like, this is so easy, man. This is so damn easy. This is the 260 kilo. I don't know how it looks to you guys, but it felt really good. And usually it looks better than it feels. Today it felt really, really good. Just felt strong all the way through. Today I'm walking out the 70 kilos. You'll see now I'm starting to do these good mornings, but I'm walking the 70 kilos out, and I'm like, this is so light on my back. But the moment you start bending over, the moment you start going to that good morning range of motion, the forces basically multiply for it, like every degree that you bend. And right at the bottom, where there's like a change of direction between eccentric and concentric, in that change of direction is where there's most amount of pressure on your spine. And so you can't bounce, you can't lose integrity of your spine, because that is the moment where things go, and then you're screwed. And you guys know where I stand with all this stuff, man. I don't care about squatting 5 million tons. I just want health, man. Health, longevity. I want to be pain-free. I don't want to screw my spine up. And I'm playing with like the worst exercise ever in terms of injuries. I don't know if there's stats on this, but I reckon good morning has more blood on its hands than any other freaking exercise. Deadlift, squat, you name it. I reckon the good morning is a brutal exercise if you screw this up, because the bar is ahead of your toes. You're just kind of like in a mechanical hell. Not a mechanical disadvantage. You're in a mechanical hell. So you have to be very, very careful. You have to kind of think about your breathing. You have to think about arching that back. And you got to keep your ego out, man. If you let the ego dictate the pace of the training session with good mornings, my man, you're not going to be around for long in terms of the gym life. It's going to snap you up. I literally feel like, if I continue down this road with these good mornings, like I love RDLs. So start of the year I did RDLs and I had a really good results with that. But I had to go heavy as hell, man. Maybe I shouldn't have gone as heavy as I did, 200 kilos 5x5. I probably would have gotten away with like 170, 160 if I did like more range of motion, but I didn't have the range of motion in my hips. So I went, okay, this is what I got in terms of range of motion. Let me load the shit out of that and push the weight. With this, and by the way, that was expensive as hell, man. Expensive. With this, I feel like I'm using 70 kilos and it is a fight. It is a fight. 70. So there's basically no axial loading in terms of sheer weight, but there is axial manipulation like you wouldn't believe. Like it's crazy how heavy the 70 feels when you're fully bent over. I think there's more specificity, I would say. I would think about that. Maybe there's more specificity in terms of the squat. Carry over to the squat when you're doing the good mornings. Maybe there's a bit more carryover from RDL to a deadlift. Not sure about that, but the hamstrings. Louis in my mind, he basically dedicated his whole freaking life stressing the importance of hamstrings. I've kind of jumped into his camp now. I'm disregarding all of the stuff that people are saying about hamstrings are just these dangly bits that no one cares about. I think it's important, and especially me thinking about the gap between my squat and my deadlift. If you're telling me I'm deadlifting 260 without the help of hamstrings, if I beef those guys up, man, like Jesus, like if my deadlift is all quads and then glutes and then rectors and all that, wow, if I put another hip extensor into the mix, wow. And if those same hip extensors, those hamstrings are, helping me with stability, with balance of the knee and the hip when I'm squatting, man, that's so exciting, man. So exciting. I'm excited mostly because it's so cheap. It feels like it's so cheap, although it's kind of like pseudo cheap because, it's all good and well, but if you screw it up, you're dead. So it's kind of like two extremes. It's all right to do, and you can kind of do it almost every day as a warm-up, maybe push it once or twice a week in terms of volume, but you get one rep wrong and you're gone. So I've got a lot of reverence for Good Mornings. I know this has got an amazing track record, both good and bad. But I can't deny how it's made me feel last 2 days. I mean, yesterday was, like I said, it was real tough to get through the shift, freaking 12 hours in ED on my feet all day. Every step I felt like the hamstring was just getting, tighter and tighter, and just DOMS. And we've spoken about why hamstrings are so prone to DOMS because of this eccentric loading, that stretching. Those cross bridges are popping off like crazy when we're kind of like in that eccentric phase. But, let's stick with 70 kilos. Let's stick with like real lightweight and just pump these Good Mornings and see what's going on. Because right now, I can't lie to you. I literally feel like I'm onto something. It's made me feel amazing. So tomorrow, another day shift, another early start. So as soon as I come in, man, I almost can't wait, man. Straight for the Good Mornings. Do a whole bunch of sets of those. Today, obviously, I'm not going to do 70 kilos. Tomorrow, I'll maybe work with 40 for a whole bunch of sets, maybe even 20s. I'll see. And then go to squatting, and that's going to be my session. So I'm literally looking forward to it. But there's a feeling over me, and I thought about, don't say it because you're kind of making fun of yourself now. I literally feel like I'm onto something. That's how good it's making me feel. But it's kind of like I have to be measured because with Good Mornings, man, 1 millimeter wrong, man, and it's a weird exercise. It's really, really weird. I know Louis snapped his back doing it. Bruce Lee snapped his back doing it. A whole bunch of you guys snapped your backs doing it. I'm just wondering whether I know Louis was doing singles. Like, oh my God. You're never going to see me do a damn single in a Good Morning. Absolutely not. Not a single, not a double, not a triple. Fives I have to think about. I reckon 10s and up. 10 to 20s what I'm going to be doing with Good Mornings. Because when you're doing a 1 rep max Good Morning. At that end range of motion, when you have to go from eccentric to concentric, you are talking about multiplication of forces like crazy if you just go 1 millimeter lower. It's not, another kilo or two added to the weight. It's like trillion, zillion kilos in a split second. Because that lever, man, especially if you don't keep that arch in your back and you let a bit of rounding. Because this is the thing, man. This is what I'm worried about. You are going until the hamstrings can go in terms of length. If you go beyond that, because you misgroove the movement, the bar path changes for whatever reason, you just screw up, human nature, and you go beyond that hamstring range of motion and you start borrowing range of motion from that lumbar spine, oh my Lord. Especially like in those end ranges of motion, pop, 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 snap. So you're better off kind of doing these Good Mornings with maybe like a few centimeters left in range of motion of your hamstring, just to make sure that you're not borrowing that length from elsewhere. Because you don't want to be, it's a hip hinge. It's a hip hinge. It's not a spine hinge or like an L4, L5 hinge. You don't want to hinge there, man. That's setting concrete. That's been splintered. Like, when somebody injures themselves, like you put somebody in a sling. That's been splintered. That should not move. It's like a door. The door is the freaking back and the wall is the hip. You're just moving in that hip, right? That's all it is, the hinges. And then after the workout, took the family out. We went to this burger joint. It's called Nordburger here in Adelaide. Love that place, man. They actually have proper fresh meat and all that. So that was the end of the today. But the whole day, man, I'm in a good mood ever since the training session. Good mood, thinking about good mornings, getting scared about the good mornings, getting excited, getting scared, getting excited, back and forth, back and forth. I think what I just have to do, man, is just stay away from the heavy weights, work with 10 plus reps, and just work on those hamstrings, work on that hip hinge. It's already making me feel good. And the biggest thing is I cannot believe it's been 18 days since I've hit 260. And there was a period where I hit like 260 for three times in a week. I think rack pulls are great, but they don't have enough range of motion to challenge me, to challenge their range of motion in the hip, which is going to carry over to the squat as well. Rack pulls are purely for deadlifting, very, very taxing. But I think the good mornings are more superior because they're cheaper. And they do more. So it's kind of like a win-win. That's what I'm excited about. Anyway, I'm onto something. I'm poppy. I'm onto something. All that stuff. I hate to say it, but hopefully this time around, it comes good. And this is kind of like one of those I've just cured my hip pain kind of moments. That's what I'm excited about. Guys, thanks to everyone on the list, Patreon list. Thanks to everyone in the comments. I had some really good suggestions about RDLs. Like we were talking about RDLs, and I said how I hate walking it out. And a bunch of you fellas said, just freaking deadlift the thing off the ground and start there. Like, I don't know why I didn't think of that, but this is what I love about you guys. You hook me up with some good advice, good tips. So thanks everyone in the comments. And that's it. Can't wait for tomorrow morning to do some more good mornings. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.